Hi everyone. I continued reading The Black Swan today, and it's just fascinating. So I'm gonna do another of these book reading club things. It's probably not edited enough for it to be not boring, so I'm sorry if there are bits where I ramble. But sometimes I feel like I want to read the whole book to you, and I'm going to try to look at the camera there when I'm speaking. We're in the chapter called "We Just Can't Predict," okay, where the author is trying to show us that all the predictions, all the efforts we make to try to predict the future fail. Okay, it's too hot already. And so I'm going to go back a little bit before what I showed you yesterday. Actually, I'm going to hide. I know what to do. Hide the. Yeah, like that I can't see myself now. I'm just going to look at the camera. Maybe this is a little seismic trick. So one thing that he says, and that kind of explains what this chapter is about, is this. Why on earth do we predict so much? Worse even, and more interesting, why don't we talk about our record in predicting? Why don't we see how we almost always miss the big events? I call this the scandal of prediction. And remember last time, or maybe you don't remember because this is the first Black Swan thing you're watching, he says that you can show that people are very bad at evaluating how good their estimation of a number is. So you ask people to pick. So here's the example. It tells you, explains the thing. Sorry, this is bad. I hope it gets better. I asked the participants to take a stab at a range for the number of books in Umberto Eco's library, which, as we know from the introduction to Part 1, contains 30,000 volumes. Of the 60 attendees, not a single one made the range wide enough to include the actual number. So he asked the attendees to estimate within a 98% certainty what the number of books was. Okay, so give a what do you call it? A range where you're 98% sure that the actual number is going to fall in the range. So, for example, I could say, because I know the answer, between 20,000 and 40,000. That would be correct. So it says there's actually an error rate of 100% when he ran this experiment. This case may be an aberration, but the distortion is exacerbated with quantities that are out of the ordinary. Interestingly, the crowd erred on the very high and the very low sides. Some set their ranges from 2,000 to 4,000, and others at 300,000 to 600,000. Okay, so I wanted to give you this example because it's quite nice. Actually, the problem is I can't see. 3 minutes. Okay, I want to see where I'm going to get cut off. Gosh, I'm very bad at making this concise. Sorry. And on the next page, he talks about one example of where we can see this kind of problem at work. He says, I'm going to start. The applications of this distortion extend beyond the mere pursuit of knowledge. Just look into the lives of the people around you. Literally any decision pertaining to the future is likely to be infected by it. Our human race is affected by a chronic underestimation of the possibility of the future straying from the course initially envisioned, in addition to other biases that sometimes exert a compounding effect. Okay, so we tend to think that the future is going to nice and calmly continue the way we understand the past has been coming to the present. We obliterate any idea that there might be something unexpected waiting for us in the future. The black swans this guy is talking about. To take an obvious example, think about how many people divorce. Almost all of them are acquainted with the statistic that between 1/3 and 1/2 of all marriages fail, something the parties involved did not forecast while tying the knot. Of course, not us, because we get along so well, as if others tying the knot got along poorly. I remind the reader that I am not testing how much people know, but assessing the difference between what people actually know and how much they think they know. Okay. Got another little excerpt on the same page. This is page 141 for those of you who've got the book. 4 minutes 50. The simple test above suggests the presence of an ingrained tendency in humans to underestimate outliers, or black swans. That's what I was trying to explain earlier. Left to our own devices, we tend to think that what happens every decade, in fact, only happens once every century, and furthermore, that we know what's going on. This miscalculation problem is little more subtle. In truth, outliers are not as sensitive to underestimation, since they are fragile to estimation errors, which can go in both directions. As we saw in chapter 6, which of course you probably hadn't read, there are conditions under which people overestimate the unusual, some specific unusual events, say when sensational images come to their minds, which, as we've seen, is how insurance companies thrive. So what he's saying is that he's given examples where people, trying to look at the camera, underestimate the odds that something's going to happen, like that we're going to divorce. But there are also situations where they overestimate the odds that something's going to happen. For example, when buying a lottery ticket. Oh yeah, I'm bound to win at one point, but actually the odds are incredibly low. So, my general point is that these events are very fragile to miscalculation, with a general severe underestimation mixed with an occasional severe overestimation. There. So then, after that is the stuff I read to you last time, and then he goes on to the problem of the experts. So I remember that when I started receiving phone calls for interviews about blogs a few years ago, journalists always wanted to quote me as an expert on blogging. And I said, oh my God, I don't want to be an expert on blogging. I mean, I don't know that much. And I actually wrote, well, it was maybe specialist, not expert. I actually wrote an article in French about saying how, you know, I'm fed up with specialists who claim to know so much about all sorts of things, and actually they don't know that much. So here we are. So basically, the author says that the problem with the experts is, in some fields, there is actually no expertise to have. In other fields, there might be expertise to have, but the experts tend to have this epistemic arrogance problem. They might know some stuff, but they are much too cocky about how much they actually know or how certain the stuff they know is. Let's see. Oh yeah, page 147. No. He's just described the fields where there are experts. So he says experts who tend to be experts: livestock judges, astronomers, test pilots, soil judges, chess masters, etc. Experts who tend to be not experts: stockbrokers, clinical psychologists, psychiatrists, college admissions officers, economists, whatever. And basically he's saying that in the domain of things that move, the things that move are often black swan prone. So that means that you can forget about making predictions. We're 8 minutes 30. We've got to wrap up. Okay, I noted this one to read out, so let's see what it was. You cannot ignore self-delusion. The problem with experts is that they do not know what they do not know. Lack of knowledge and delusion about the quality of your knowledge comes together. The same process that makes you know less also makes you satisfied with your knowledge. Yes, that reminds me of an article I blogged about a few years ago. I keep forgetting how to find it. It's somewhere in my blog, but I can't remember what title I used. But it says basically, people who are incompetent think they are competent. The more incompetent you are, the more competent you tend to think you are, and the more competent you are, the more incompetent you tend to think you are. There. I'm not sure this one was really fascinating, but what's coming next is really, really interesting. I actually want to read you something like 3 whole pages of the book. Yeah, so I'm going to do another of these.